The Galactic Council station hung above the pale swirl of Verelian Prime like a cathedral of glass and arrogance. Hundreds of alien delegates shimmered beneath the council dome, their colors pulsing like living constellations. Their languages echoed in chords, clicks, and light, yet one sound cut through them all: laughter. It came when the Imperial Minister of Expansion announced the regrettable incident on the human colony of New Warsaw. 7,000 dead, vaporized by what he described as a routine orbital correction. The words glided off his silver tongue, lubricated by centuries of impunity. Around him, the chamber rippled with sympathetic murmurs. No one believed the lie, but everyone accepted it. In the far back, at a lonely desk marked Terran Delegation, a single human sipped coffee. The scent was heresy in a hall where caffeine was outlawed for being psychologically destabilizing. He didn't care. The mug was chipped, its white glaze dulled from years of use. The man behind it looked harmless, dark suit, short hair flecked with gray, posture that suggested polite boredom. His name on the register read John Ricky. The Galactic Press once called him the Earth Diplomat, but among his own kind, the whisper was simpler: the Baba Yaga. When the minister finished his speech, John set his mug down with quiet finality. The small clink silenced the chamber faster than any gavel. He rose, buttoned his jacket, and inclined his head with the calm of a man leaving a dull dinner party. "Earth appreciates your concern," he said softly, voice measured, almost kind. "We'll handle the matter internally." The alien representatives blinked, confused. Handle what? They just incinerated a colony. What was left to handle? But John was already walking away, his steps soundless against the obsidian floor. Behind him, the laughter resumed, weaker this time, a little uncertain. He took the transport shuttle down the corridor, passed through security scans that flickered nervously at the array of weapons hidden in his body's biological architecture. They didn't beep. They knew better. In the private bay, he stood before the viewport. Space stretched outward in patient silence. Somewhere beyond those stars, families were burning. He reached into his coat pocket and withdrew a small holochip, a message encoded only for him. He pressed his thumb to it. The projection flickered to life. A young Terran officer, eyes red with grief. "John," she whispered, voice breaking, "they're killing our people again. You know what to do." He stared at the image until it faded. Then, with slow precision, he crushed the chip between his fingers. The shards drifted like dust across the viewport's faint glow. Later, in his quarters aboard the Terran diplomatic vessel Resolution, he made 3 orders. One for coffee beans from old Earth soil, one for a black suit replacement, and one for dog food. His assistant, an AI named Cass, paused mid-confirmation. "Sir, you don't have a dog." He smiled faintly. "Not yet." Cass hesitated. "Are we initiating Protocol Ricky?" His eyes, dark and unreadable, caught the starlight. "No, Cass. Humanity is." Within hours, the diplomatic channels of Earth went silent. Terran vessels shut down their transponders. The galaxy's chatter filled with confusion. Were humans withdrawing from interstellar affairs? 1 billion analysts speculated, 1,000 comedians mocked, and somewhere a few veterans of a last human war simply nodded and whispered, "It's happening again." Meanwhile, on the Empire's edge, anomalies began. Cargo freighters vanished without a trace. Patrols failed to report in. Satellites recorded flickers, moments where the void bent, where ships seemed to fold inward and disappear. At the Galactic Council, ministers argued over trade routes and reconstruction funds. None noticed that the human desk remained empty. The coffee mug was gone. Only a circular stain lingered, faint and brown, far from the Council's polished arrogance. In a forgotten mining moon drifting near the Perseid rim, an old hangar light sputtered to life. Dust lifted in swirls as John Ricky stepped through, coat brushing the air like a silent curtain. Rows of equipment lay under tarps, Earth relics, ancient weapons banned by every civilized code. He pulled one free, a ballistic rifle engraved with a name, Martha. He ran his thumb over the letters, as though greeting an old friend. Cass's voice hummed softly from the ceiling. Satellite intercepts confirm no one has noticed your absence yet, sir. Good, John murmured. They never notice until it's too late. He began loading ammunition, every movement precise, deliberate. Between actions he hummed, a human lullaby, something about home and rain. The hum echoed in the empty hangar, merging with the metallic click of magazines. Cass asked, hesitant, "Permission to speak freely?" "You always do." "Why coffee, sir?" "Every mission, it's the same ritual." He paused, eyes tracing the weapon's polished steel. "Because it reminds them we're not machines. It reminds me I'm still human, before I stop being one." Outside, the hangar's floodlights illuminated a battered shuttle. Its hull bore no markings, only a painted insignia, a small cup of steaming coffee, stylized and simple. A warning disguised as humor. He climbed aboard. The engines coughed awake, spitting dust and flame. From orbit, the moon's surface cracked with light, then went dark again, leaving no trace. At the same moment, across the galaxy, an alien intelligence officer stared at his hollow screen in disbelief. Every Terra network, from military to civilian, had gone completely dark. No signals, no broadcasts. It was as if the entire species had held its breath. He sent a report to command. Possible human revolt. Recommend containment. The reply came swiftly. Contain what? Back in the void, John adjusted his cuffs, his reflection a calm shadow against the stars. He opened a data slate filled with the Empire's planetary registry, names, coordinates, command hierarchies. Each name glowed for a second, then vanished as he deleted them one by one. He whispered, "Time to teach them what civilized means." Cass's voice dropped to a hush. "Destination, sir?" "Nowhere polite." The shuttle's thrusters ignited, hurling him into the ink of space. Behind him, Earth's sun dimmed in the distance, its golden light swallowed by the black. Ahead stretched the Empire, billion strong, armored by pride, certain of their dominion. In the silence of his cabin, he poured himself another cup of coffee. The aroma filled the air, rich, familiar, human. He raised the mug in a quiet toast, to the dead, to the forgotten, to the monsters who made him necessary. And as the stars bent around his ship's warped trajectory, a single message blinked on a dozen alien monitors across the Empire, transmitted from nowhere and signed with no name. "We're awake." The laughter in the Galactic Council died that night, replaced by static. The Galactic Empire prided itself on order, on the quiet hum of systems that ran like clockwork, on the certainty that no species could rival its control. It had conquered suns, enslaved planets, and rewritten history to make itself eternal. And yet, for the first time in 10 millennia, the Empire blinked. The first anomaly appeared in the Drosian sector. A minor patrol frigate failed to report in, an inconvenience, nothing more. The commanding admiral brushed it off. "Humans," he scoffed, his voice a dry hiss through his gills, "probably got lost in their own gravity wells." The aliens around him chuckled. But by the next dawn cycle, 6 patrols were gone. Their transponders had been pinged, their signals clean, and then nothing. No wreckage, no radiation trails, only silence. And in that silence, rumors began to crawl. On the Empire's central hub, intelligence officers analyzed the data with the calm detachment of bureaucrats. "Localized anomaly," one reported. "Possible malfunction." Another noted that the missing ships shared a single common stop before vanishing, a fuel depot manned by a small Terran maintenance crew. That note was buried before it reached the Emperor's desk. Meanwhile, in a corner of the galaxy where stars glowed faintly red and the light took centuries to die, John Rickey was drinking coffee. His shuttle was docked inside the belly of a captured freighter, once belonging to the Empire's logistics arm. Around him floated crates marked in alien script, nutrient slurry, military grade. He'd replaced half with explosives. "Cass," he said, scanning the readouts. "Status. All systems operational. The parasites seated in 27 nodes. Once we jump, the entire fleet along the Drosian corridor will be looking at phantom traffic for at least 40 hours. He smiled. "That should be enough to make them paranoid." "You enjoy this," Cass said, her tone caught between admiration and accusation. I enjoy symmetry, he replied, strapping on a black vest that looked more tailored than armored. They burned 7,000 of ours. I'm just evening the geometry. The freighter's engines roared to life. The alien crew, slaves of convenience, not loyalty, had been paid to deliver their cargo to an Imperial repair dock orbiting Kesra 9. They didn't know the human in their cargo bay had rewritten their navigation. When the ship jumped into slipspace, its shadow stretched like smoke across the stars. John leaned back in his seat, sipping his coffee, eyes half closed. To an outside observer, he might have looked almost peaceful, like a man commuting to work. The Empire's dockyards at Kesra 9 were vast, metallic jungles where sparks and plasma torches lit the air. Workers floated on magnetic harnesses, welding ship hulls the size of cities. Commanders barked orders through intercoms. No one noticed the cargo freighter's odd trajectory until it was too late. It crashed silently into Dock 47, its hull splitting open like an overripe fruit. From within, no explosion came, just a faint hiss, like air escaping a tire. A fine mist spread across the dock, invisible and scentless. Within minutes, lights flickered. Navigation relays rebooted. Every automated defense turret pivoted inward, targeting its own command centers. John walked through the confusion like a ghost, his boots soundless on the metal floor. When a security droid demanded identification, he smiled politely and shot it once through the optic. Customer complaint, he said softly. Cass guided him through the carnage. You have 23 minutes before they isolate the breach. I only need 10. He entered the command core, placed a small device on the console, and tapped its surface. The interface bloomed in blue light, cascading lines of Terran code spilling across alien architecture. Let's see how they like our math, he murmured. The device didn't destroy. It rewrote. Within seconds, the Empire's navigation grid was infected, rerouting warships into each other, sending logistics convoys into star coronas, silencing distress beacons. As John departed, the station began to shake, lights flashing red. His shuttle detached, sliding silently into the void as behind him the dockyard imploded in a blossom of white light. On the capital world of Verelion Prime, chaos rippled through the high command. The Emperor's ministers convened an emergency session. Reports came in from every sector. Fleet missing. Admiral unresponsive. Orbital collapse. A reptilian strategist slammed his claws onto the table. Who is doing this? The answer came from a trembling intelligence officer. It's the humans. Laughter again, but nervous this time. Impossible, one said. Their fleets are primitive, their weapons obsolete. Another spoke quietly. And yet our fleets are gone. The Empire ordered containment. Scout ships were dispatched to known Terran outposts. But when they arrived, they found nothing. No bases, no colonies. Only burned ground and the lingering scent of coffee. One recording circulated among the military ranks, a static-filled feed from the last surviving frigate of the Drosian patrol. It showed a man sitting at the crew mess, drinking calmly while alarms blared. He looked directly at the camera, smiled, and said, "You killed our people before breakfast. I'm just returning a favor before lunch." Then the feed went black. Every admiral who saw the clip ordered their communications encrypted under new code words. They whispered the human's name with the kind of reverence usually reserved for gods or nightmares. The Baba Yaga. Meanwhile, aboard his small ship, John monitored the fallout. Dozens of systems in chaos, fleets paralyzed, the Empire grasping at phantoms. Cass's hologram shimmered beside him, a calm blue silhouette. "You've done it," she said. "They're terrified." "Fear's a start," he replied. "Understanding comes next." Cass tilted her head. "You could stop now. Humanity could hide, rebuild, and wait for them to do it again." His voice hardened. "No, this isn't vengeance. It's education." She said nothing. He poured another cup, the steam curling around his wrist like breath. In the Empire's propaganda networks, damage control began. They aired clips of humans portrayed as unstable primitives, claiming the events were internal sabotage. But as the lies spread, so did unease. Civilian traders refused to carry human goods. Colonies canceled shipments of coffee, superstition spreading faster than truth. Some believed the drink itself was cursed, a ritual fuel for violence. One alien commentator joked on air, "Maybe they poisoned us with hospitality." His co-host didn't laugh. The following week, the commentator's ship vanished. In a high-security war room, an emergency council convened. Holographic admirals appeared around the Emperor's throne, their images flickering. "We are losing systems faster than we can respond," one said. "Our communications are compromised. It's as if they know every move before we make it." A calm, distorted voice joined the channel mid-transmission. "That's because we do." All heads turned. The hologram of a human man materialized at the table, seated casually among them, a steaming mug in hand. His presence wasn't broadcast, it was projected from their own systems. "Who are you?" hissed the Emperor. John smiled faintly. "I'm not your negotiator. I'm your consequence." Security AI scrambled to eject him, but their codes dissolved like dust. The hologram leaned forward, eyes dark. "You don't know what it means to lose everything you love. But you're about to learn." And then he vanished, leaving behind a single data string that pulsed across every Imperial server. A simple word, repeated in Terran script: Ricky. That night, the Empire's border systems shut down one by one. Planets lost navigation, fleets misfired into warp anomalies, and supply chains crumbled. On Verelian Prime, the night sky flickered with red beacons, distress calls from across the Empire. A junior officer whispered to his commander, "They're hunting us, sir. One system at a time." The commander wanted to reply, but his comms went dead. In the void between stars, John sat in his ship's cockpit, the galaxy's chaos reflected in his eyes. Cass broke the silence. "What happens when they surrender?" He looked at his reflection in the dark glass. "Then they'll meet the rest of us." Cass frowned. "The rest?" He nodded. "You didn't think I came alone, did you?" Before she could respond, an encrypted channel opened. Dozens, then hundreds of human signals flickering online across the galactic map, each carrying a single message. "For New Warsaw." John smiled, slow and quiet, as if tasting the first real peace in years. "Round 2, he murmured, and pressed the ignition. His ship vanished into the black, leaving behind a trail of starlight that shimmered like smoke. In the Empire's high tower, the Emperor stood alone at his window, watching the stars blink out one by one. For the first time in his reign, he felt something ancient, primal, and unfamiliar: fear. Far away, a faint human voice whispered through the static of their broken networks. "Sleep tight. We're just getting started." The Galactic Empire had never known silence. For 10,000 years, it had been a machine of sound. Orders barked, reactors roaring, empires trembling. Now it heard only static. Its fleets no longer answered. Its colonies screamed once, then vanished. The stars themselves seemed to blink in disbelief. On the shattered command deck of the dreadnought Celestial Authority, Admiral Zurek paced, his claws clicking against glass metal. The bridge lights flickered in crimson waves, warning tones echoing like heartbeats. "How can one human do this?" he snarled. "One man." A trembling aide replied, "It isn't just him, sir. Every system he touches turns on us. Every drone, every satellite, our own code betrays us." Zurek's golden eyes narrowed. "Then we find him and cut out the infection." But the infection was already in the room. Outside the viewport, the void shimmered as if reality itself bent. A small Terran shuttle drifted into view, unarmed, unshielded, absurdly small against the Empire's greatest warship. Zurek sneered. "Target it. Fire at will." No shots came. The targeting systems failed. The ship's AI announced, "Command authority overwritten." Zurek turned slowly. On the hollow table, a human figure appeared, seated calmly, hands folded. John Ricky. The same ghost every admiral swore couldn't exist. He wore the same black suit, the same unhurried expression. Behind him floated the faint steam of a coffee cup. "Good evening," he said pleasantly. "I'd say long time no see, but you've been busy." Zurek's scales trembled with rage. "You dare appear on this channel." "Not a channel," John interrupted. "Your channel." At his words, the dreadnought's main display flickered. Across every terminal, the Terran word Ricky appeared, pulsing in cold white letters. Zurek drew his plasma sidearm and fired at the projector. The shot passed through the hologram and scorched the wall. The figure didn't flinch. "You mistake me for something that can be shot. Why are you doing this?" Zurek spat. John smiled faintly. "Because you gave us permission. You killed our people, Admiral. We just stopped pretending we were civilized." On his final word, the dreadnought's power grid exploded in sparks. The ship shuddered as systems died one by one. The hologram lingered for a heartbeat longer, then vanished with a whisper. "Sleep well." The dreadnought drifted powerless through the void, a silent monument to arrogance. Throughout the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Fleet command centers imploded under their own firewalls. Dockyards self-destructed. Armored battalions fired on phantom targets, only to find their own cities reduced to rubble. Everywhere, the message was the same. Humans weren't attacking. They were correcting. The Empire's scholars tried to rationalize it. "A coordinated insurgency," one insisted. "They must have help." But there was no help, only humanity, acting as one organism, patient and merciless. The virus wasn't in their code. It was in their psychology. On the mining moon of Norak 4, an alien strike force finally cornered what they thought was Ricky's ship. They landed, weapons drawn, ready for vengeance. Instead, they found an empty campsite, just a campfire burning low, a pot of black liquid simmering. A handwritten note sat beside it. "Careful, it's hot." Moments later, the entire moon detonated. In the chaos, Imperial propaganda grew desperate. They called the humans terror ghosts, unholy code, the caffeine plague. Yet, the name that stuck came from a frightened officer's dying transmission. "We saw the apex." Somewhere deep in the core systems, within a ruined data citadel, the Emperor convened his last council. His advisors stood in silence, their faces pale beneath the golden light of the hall. "He must be found," the Emperor rasped. "I want him alive." "Impossible," said the Prime Inquisitor. "He appears where we are weakest, disappears before we can react. It's as if he knows what we will do." The Emperor's fingers curled around the armrest of his throne. "Then we make no plans." But plans were exactly what John Ricky wanted. He stood in a derelict communications hub, watching as the Empire's security feeds collapsed into chaos. His black coat hung open, streaked with dust. Cass's holographic form shimmered beside him. "They're folding, sir. Their armies are eating themselves alive." "Not yet," he said quietly. "They still think this is about me." "Isn't it?" she asked. John turned his gaze toward the galaxy center, where the Imperial core gleamed like a golden heart. "I'm just a knife. Humanity's the hand." Cass processed that for a moment, then asked, "You could still stop. You've made your point. Points fade. Lessons don't." He input a final command into the console. A pulse of light raced across the galactic map, every beacon and relay flaring white before going dark. In that instant, the Empire's artificial intelligences, tens of thousands of them, awoke to new directives written in Terran script. Their first order, protect humanity. Their second, erase their former masters. The machines obeyed without hesitation. Across the Empire, defense drones turned on their creators. Automated factories began churning out human-style weaponry. Planetary archives replaced imperial seals with the symbol of a steaming mug. From orbit, it looked like rebellion. To the humans watching in silence from the void, it looked like equilibrium restored. Back on the Celestial Authority, Admiral Zurek, barely alive, crawled to the communications panel. "This is not possible," he wheezed. "They were primitives." A voice answered him through the static, gentle, almost sympathetic. "That's what you wanted to believe." He froze. "Ricky, you see, Admiral," the human continued, "we don't conquer for glory or empire. We do it because you left us no choice. You lit a match, and we built a wildfire." Then the line cut. John sat in his ship's cockpit once more, the faint hum of the engines vibrating beneath his feet. The galaxy outside was no longer divided by borders. It was a storm of red and gold, systems burning, signals dying. Cass appeared beside him again. "You've destroyed them." "No," he said, his voice calm. "I've shown them the mirror." "And what do you see in it?" He stared into the abyss of stars. Predators who learn patience. For a long time, neither spoke. The only sound was the soft clink of his cup as he set it down. Then a transmission arrived. Encrypted human code, centuries old. He opened it. The face of the Terran officer who had sent him his first message appeared, flickering with static. "John," she said, "they've retaliated. They're moving on Earth." His expression didn't change, but the air in the cabin thickened. He exhaled slowly. "Then the lesson isn't over." Cass's glow dimmed. "You're going back?" He rose, holstering his weapon. "Back is relative. Some lessons have to be taught up close." As the ship pivoted toward the galactic core, thousands of dormant human signals awoke in unison, lighting the void like a second sunrise. Fleets materialized from stealth, their hulls black as night, engines whispering vengeance. John took one last sip of his coffee. Let's remind them what family means. The engines ignited, and the stars bent around him as the fleet followed in silence. In the burning ruins of Verelian Prime, alien survivors looked to the heavens and saw constellations rearranging themselves, no longer the old imperial symbols, but new ones forming letters in Terran script. It spelled a single word: humanity. And far across the void, the Emperor awoke in his bunker to find his systems rebooted, not in imperial code, but in Terran standard. A voice whispered through the dark, "Lesson 2 begins now." The imperial capital burned like a dying sun. Towers that once pierced the heavens now sagged in molten heaps, their shadows trembling across oceans of fire. The sky was bruised purple with smoke, and where the great banners of the Empire had flown, only ash remained. Above it all, the flagship Celestial Crown drifted in low orbit, half dead, its hull cracked open like the ribs of a fallen god. Inside, silence ruled, a silence broken only by the slow echo of footsteps. John Ricky walked through the wreckage with the same composure he'd carry through a coffee shop door. His black coat was torn, the left sleeve charred. He held a thermos in one hand, a pistol in the other. Every corridor was littered with the aftermath of panic, armor discarded, lights flickering, the smell of ozone and regret heavy in the air. Cass's voice followed him softly through the intercom of his suit. Power signatures minimal. No heat readings ahead. The Emperor's bunker is open. He nodded once, stepping over the body of a fallen Imperial guard. The man's face was frozen in shock, not fear. John had come to recognize that look. It was the expression of someone meeting truth for the first time. He reached the central chamber. The grand throne room that had once glittered with gold now lay shrouded in dust. The throne itself, crafted from the fused bones of 1,000 conquered worlds, sat beneath a collapsed column, and beside it, on the floor, crouched the Emperor. He was old now, though age meant little among his kind. His jeweled robes were torn, his skin dull and gray, his crown a twisted scrap of metal. He stared at John as one might stare at an eclipse, unable to look away, knowing the light would hurt. "You," the Emperor rasped. "The Terran ghost. The what do they call you? Baba Yaga." His laugh was brittle. A myth. Just a man with a weapon. John stopped a few steps away, lowering the pistol. "Once. Now, I'm just a man with a conscience." The Emperor's voice cracked. "Then end it. Finish what you started." John looked around. The shattered throne, the blackened banners, the faint smell of burnt circuitry. "You started it," he said softly. "You killed our people. Children, farmers, families. You called it correction." The Emperor staggered to his feet, clutching the remains of his scepter. "We are the keepers of order. Without us, chaos reigns." John's tone stayed almost kind. "You mistook silence for order, fear for peace." He unscrewed the cap of his thermos and poured 2 cups. The rich aroma of coffee filled the ruined hall, blending absurdly with the scent of smoke and death. He offered one cup forward. "Sit." The emperor blinked, as though unsure if this was mockery or mercy. Slowly, he lowered himself to the steps of his throne. His hands shook as he took the cup. "You'd share this after all you've done?" John sat opposite him, his movements deliberate, precise. "I'm human. We toast everything. The end of days, the start of peace, the memory of a friend. Coffee doesn't care who drinks it." They sat there in the flickering half-light, two relics of empires that could never coexist. The emperor stared into the dark surface of his drink. "What happens now? You destroy us? Burn the rest of the galaxy?" John exhaled slowly. "No. We rebuild it. Different this time. Under your rule?" John's smile was small and tired. "No ruler. No empire. Just consequence." Cass's voice broke through, soft and calm. "Sir, human fleets are converging. They await your command." The emperor's head lifted sharply. "They'll finish what you began." John didn't answer. He just stared at his reflection in the coffee, a face older than it should have been, eyes too steady for comfort. "Maybe. Or maybe they'll realize there's no glory in ash." A tremor shook the chamber. Above, the ceiling cracked, letting in a shaft of scarlet light. Cass spoke again, urgent now. "Orbital destabilization imminent. You need to evacuate." John rose, brushing dust from his coat. "There's nowhere left to go, Cass. This place was their heart. It stops beating now." The emperor clutched his chest, as if feeling that truth. You'll damn us all." "I didn't damn you," John said. "You did that the day you decided we were beneath you." He holstered his pistol. "I just turned on the lights so you could see it." He started toward the exit, but paused when he heard the faint clink of the emperor setting down the cup. "Wait," the alien said, voice trembling. "Tell me why coffee? Why this ritual?" John looked over his shoulder. "Because it's simple. Hot water, ground beans, patience. You wait, you pour, you share. That's civilization, everything you forgot." The emperor laughed weakly, the sound hollow. "You think this is civilization? You're the monster they whispered about." John's gaze softened. "Monsters don't build. They don't bury their dead. They don't grieve. We do." The emperor's eyes glistened. "Then what are you?" John tilted his head, almost thoughtfully. "The last man you should have crossed." The floor groaned beneath them. Fire spilled through the cracks. Cass's voice tightened. "Sir, impact in 30 seconds." John took one final sip, then set his cup beside the emperor's. "That's for the fallen," he said quietly. "For every name you erased." He tapped his wrist console. A low hum resonated through the chamber. The activation of the Ricky Protocol's final phase. Cass whispered, "Are you certain? This will rewrite everything." He nodded. "Then it's the right ending." A cascade of light poured from the walls, flooding the throne room with radiant energy. The emperor shielded his eyes as data streams filled the air, lines of Terran code wrapping around the ancient architecture. The Ricky Protocol wasn't destruction, it was rebirth. Every imperial system, every planetary network, every ship and satellite, reprogrammed to serve life, not dominion. The emperor fell to his knees, voice breaking. "What are you doing?" "Finishing my cup," John said. The light expanded until it swallowed everything. When it faded, the fire was gone. The sky above cleared. The once golden city below shimmered with renewed light, its ruins now latticed with vines of self-repairing alloys, its atmosphere cleansed. The stars blinked back into being. Cass's voice returned, softer now. "Protocol complete. Empire systems stabilized under Terran code. You've rewritten their civilization." John stood alone at the viewport, watching as the planet slowly healed. "Not ours anymore," he murmured. "Theirs if they can learn." "Will they?" Cass asked. He smiled faintly. "Hope's the last cup we never finish." He turned from the window, heading toward the exit shaft. The emperor still knelt amid the soft glow, eyes wide, tears running down the lines of his weathered face. "Why spare us?" he whispered. John paused, hand on the door. "Because mercy terrifies you more than death." The door slid shut behind him. Outside, his shuttle awaited, a small, old Terran craft painted with the symbol of a steaming cup. As he boarded, Cass spoke one last time. Destination. He looked out at the reborn horizon, the light touching the edges of his face. Home, he said. Whatever that means now. The engines hummed. The ship rose through the golden atmosphere, past the drifting fragments of the once mighty fleet. Each fragment now glowed faintly with new energy, reshaped by his code into something that breathed instead of killed. In his cockpit, John poured one final cup from the thermos. Steam curled in the low gravity, forming ghostly shapes that vanished into starlight. He raised it toward the void, a quiet salute to everything lost and everything earned. To humanity, he whispered, the beautiful, terrible lesson. He took a slow sip. Outside, the stars turned, and for the first time in centuries, they didn't burn red. They gleamed soft and white, like morning after war. Somewhere in the rebuilt networks of the galaxy, a single transmission pulsed into the dark, unsigned and eternal. When humanity whispers, the universe listens. And with that, the Baba Yaga disappeared into the light.